Marcus Chun stood at the window of his small apartment, looking out at the gray sky above New Geneva. The rain fell in steady drops against the glass. He had been waiting for 3 days now. The call would come soon. Everyone knew it would come soon. The war had been going on for 3 years. 3 long years of fighting against aliens that nobody really understood. The Zephyrians came from somewhere far away in space. They had better ships, better weapons, and more soldiers than humans could count. But humans were stubborn. They kept fighting even when things looked bad. Marcus was 42 years old. He had worked as a diplomat for 15 years. Before that, he had been a soldier for 10 years. He was good at talking to people and making deals. He was also good at staying calm when things went wrong. That was why they would pick him for this job. The phone rang. "Marcus Chun," he answered. "Commander Chun, please report to Central Command immediately." The voice belonged to General Sarah Martinez. She sounded tired. Marcus put on his uniform. It was the blue uniform that diplomats wore, not the green one that soldiers wore. He looked at himself in the mirror. His black hair was getting gray at the sides. His face had more lines than it used to have. War made everyone look older. The ride to Central Command took 30 minutes. The building was huge and made of white stone. Guards stood at every door. Everyone looked serious and worried. Marcus had been here many times before, but today felt different. General Martinez met him in a small room on the 20th floor. She was a tall woman with short brown hair and sharp eyes. 2 other people sat at the table. Marcus recognized them. One was Dr. James Wilson, who studied alien cultures. The other was Admiral Lisa Park, who commanded the space fleet. "Sit down, Marcus," the general said. Her voice was quiet. Marcus sat down. He looked at the 3 faces around the table. They all looked tired and worried. "The war is not going well," General Martinez said. "We are losing ships faster than we can build them. We are losing people faster than we can train them. If this keeps going, we will lose everything in 6 months." Marcus nodded. He had read the reports. He knew how bad things were. "The Zephyrians sent us a message yesterday," Admiral Park said. She pushed a small device across the table. "They want to talk." Dr. Wilson leaned forward. "This is the first time they have tried to communicate with us about anything except fighting. We think they are getting tired of the war, too." "What do they want?" Marcus asked. "They want to send one person to meet with their queen," General Martinez said. "One diplomat, 1 ship, no weapons, no tricks." Marcus felt his heart beat faster. "Their queen? We know almost nothing about her," Dr. Wilson said. "The Zephyrians never talk about her. They just follow her orders. We think she makes all the important decisions for their entire race. We need someone who can talk to her," Admiral Park said. "Someone who can make a deal. Someone who can save our people." General Martinez looked directly at Marcus. "We want you to go." Marcus was quiet for a moment. He had expected this. He had known they would ask him. But hearing it still made him feel cold inside. "What do we know about their culture?" he asked. Dr. Wilson opened a thick folder. "Not much. They look like insects, but they are as smart as humans. Maybe smarter. They have a society with different classes. Workers, soldiers, scientists, and rulers. The queen is at the top of everything." "Have any humans ever seen the queen before?" Marcus asked. "No," Dr. Wilson said. "Never. She stays hidden in their main ship. We do not even know what she looks like." Admiral Park turned on a screen. It showed pictures of Zephyrian soldiers. They were tall and thin, with 4 arms and big eyes. Their skin looked hard, like armor. They moved fast and were very strong. "These are the only ones we have seen," she said. "The warriors. We do not know what the other classes look like. General Martinez stood up. Marcus, I will not lie to you. This mission is very dangerous. The Zephyrians might kill you as soon as you arrive. They might take you prisoner. They might torture you for information. But if you do not go, millions of people will die, Admiral Park added. Maybe billions. Maybe everyone. Marcus looked out the window. He could see the spaceport in the distance. Ships were landing and taking off. Some were bringing wounded soldiers home. Others were carrying supplies to the front lines. The war touched everything now. When do I leave? Marcus asked. Tomorrow morning, General Martinez said. We will give you a small diplomatic ship called the Olive Branch. It has no weapons, just basic life support and communication systems. Dr. Wilson gave Marcus the thick folder. This has everything we know about the Zephyrians. Study it carefully. What should I offer them? Marcus asked. Anything, Admiral Park said. Trade deals, technology sharing, territory. Anything except complete surrender. General Martinez walked to the window. Marcus, you are our best diplomat. If anyone can make this work, it is you. But remember, you are not just representing yourself. You are representing all of humanity. Marcus stood up and took the folder. It felt heavy in his hands. I understand, he said. I will do my best. The meeting ended. Marcus walked back through the building. Soldiers and officers moved quickly through the halls. Everyone was busy with the war. But now, maybe, there was a chance for peace. That night, Marcus read the folder from beginning to end. He studied pictures of Zephyrian ships and weapons. He read reports from battles. He tried to understand how these aliens thought and acted. But there was not much information. Humans and Zephyrians had spent 3 years fighting each other, but they still knew almost nothing about each other. In the morning, Marcus put on his best diplomatic uniform. He packed a small bag with clothes and personal items. He did not pack much. He did not know if he would ever come back. The olive branch was waiting for him at the spaceport. It was small and white, with the symbols of peace painted on the sides. The crew was small, too. Just 4 people, including Marcus Dodd, as the ship lifted off from Earth. Marcus looked down at the blue and green planet below. Somewhere up there in the darkness of space, alien ships were waiting for him. An alien queen was waiting to meet him. The future of the human race was waiting to be decided. The journey through space took 5 days. Marcus spent the time reading everything he could about the Zephyrians. He practiced speeches. He thought about what he would say to the queen, but nothing could prepare him for what he was about to see. On the 5th day, the olive branch approached the meeting point. It was empty space between 2 star systems. No planets, no asteroids, just darkness and distant stars. Contact ahead, said Captain Torres from the pilot's seat. Big contact. Marcus moved to the front window and looked out. What he saw made him take a deep breath. The Zephyrian ship was enormous. It was not built like human ships. Instead of metal and straight lines, it looked alive. The surface was smooth and curved, like the shell of a huge insect. It was brown and gold in color, and it seemed to move and breathe, even though it was not alive. How big is that thing? Asked Lieutenant Kim from her station. Sensors show it is 3 kilometers long, Captain Torres said, and 1 kilometer wide. Marcus had seen pictures of Zephyrian ships before, but seeing one in person was different. It made him feel very small. The olive branch could fit inside one of the ship's smaller sections. They are sending us a message, said Communications Officer Grant. A voice came through the speakers. It spoke in the Zephyrian language, which sounded like clicking and buzzing noises. But then a machine translated it into English. Human ship. You will follow our shuttle to the landing area. You will bring only one person. No weapons. No recording devices. Tell them we understand, Marcus said. A smaller ship came out of the main vessel. It was still bigger than the olive branch, but it looked more normal. It led them to an opening in the side of the huge ship. The opening was large enough for 10 human ships. As they flew inside, Marcus saw that the walls were not made of metal. They looked like they had grown instead of being built. There were patterns and designs that reminded him of insect tunnels. Strange lights glowed in the walls. This place gives me the creeps, Lieutenant Kim said quietly. The shuttle led them to a landing area. It was a large open space with a flat floor. Other small ships were parked there, but they all looked alien. The air looked strange too, with a greenish color. The air is safe for humans, Captain Torres said after checking his instruments. But it smells funny. Marcus put on a special suit that would help him breathe. It was clear so the aliens could see his face. He also wore a translation device on his ear. Good luck, sir, Captain Torres said. Marcus walked down the ramp from his ship. The gravity felt strange. It was a little lighter than Earth gravity, but heavier than Mars gravity. Each step felt weird. 3 Zephyrians were waiting for him. They were tall, about 7 feet high. Their skin looked hard and shiny, like armor. They had 4 arms and 2 legs. Their heads were elongated, and their eyes were large and made of many small parts, like the eyes of insects. But these eyes seemed intelligent. The Zephyrians did not speak to him. They just started walking. Marcus followed them. They moved in a strange way, almost like they were dancing. Their forearms moved in rhythm as they walked. The hallways were long and curved. The walls had the same living appearance as the outside of the ship. Sometimes Marcus could see other Zephyrians working at strange machines. They all stopped and stared at him as he passed. He was probably the first human many of them had ever seen. After walking for 15 minutes, they reached a large door. It was round and had patterns carved into it. The 3 Zephyrians who had been guiding Marcus stopped and made gestures with their arms. Then they stepped back. The door opened slowly. It did not slide or swing. Instead, it seemed to grow open. Like a flower blooming. Beyond the door was a huge room. The ceiling was very high and curved like a dome. Strange lights hung from the ceiling like stars. The walls had more of the living patterns, but these were more complex and beautiful. In the center of the room was a raised platform. And on that platform was the Queen. Marcus had expected the Queen to look like the soldiers he had seen. But she was different. She was taller and more elegant. Her skin was not the brown armor color of the soldiers. Instead, it was pale gold and seemed to shine with its own light. She had the same forearms and large eyes, but she moved with grace and dignity. She wore something that might have been a crown, but it looked like it had grown from her head. It was made of the same shining material as her skin. Behind her stood 6 guards, all bigger and more dangerous looking than the soldiers Marcus had seen before. Marcus walked forward slowly. He remembered his training about first contact situations. He stopped about 10 feet from the platform and bowed his head respectfully. "Your Majesty," he said clearly, "I am Commander Marcus Chen of the United Earth Diplomatic Corps. I come bearing humanity's earnest desire for peace." The moment the words left his mouth, something amazing happened. The Queen, who had been raising one of her arms in what looked like a greeting gesture, suddenly stopped moving. Her arm froze in the air. Her large eyes fixed on Marcus with an intensity that made him feel uncomfortable. The guards noticed it too. They looked at each other with what Marcus thought might be confusion. One of them took a step forward, but the Queen held up another arm to stop him. For a long moment, nobody moved. The Queen stared at Marcus as if she had seen a ghost. Marcus could hear his own heartbeat. He could hear the quiet humming of the ship's systems. But nobody spoke. Then, Very slowly, the queen lowered her raised arm. She said something in the Zephyrian language to her guards. Her voice sounded different than other Zephyrians. It was softer, more musical. The guards looked surprised, but they obeyed. All 6 of them left the room through side doors. Now Marcus was alone with the queen. She stepped down from her platform. As she got closer, Marcus could see that her eyes were not just looking at him. They were studying him. She moved around him in a slow circle, examining him from every angle. Finally, she stopped in front of him. When she spoke, it was not in the Zephyrian language. It was in English, but her voice was uncertain, like she had not used the language in a long time. "Your voice," she said slowly. "I know your voice." Marcus felt confused. "I am sorry, Your Majesty, but I have never met you before." The queen tilted her head to one side. It was a very human gesture, which seemed strange coming from her. "Marcus," she said, and her voice was becoming stronger and more sure. "Is it really you?" Marcus felt the world stop around him. Nobody should know his first name. It had not been in his introduction. The only aliens he had ever met were prisoners of war or dead soldiers on battlefields. He had never had a conversation with a Zephyrian before. "How do you know my name?" he asked. The queen took another step closer. When she spoke again, her voice was different. It was softer and had an emotion in it that Marcus had never heard from a Zephyrian before. "You saved my life," she said. Marcus stared at the queen. His mind was racing, trying to understand what she had said. He had saved many people during his time as a soldier. Human soldiers, mostly. But he had also helped some civilians. He could not remember ever saving a Zephyrian. "I do not understand," Marcus said carefully. "When did I save your life?" The queen looked around the large room. She seemed to be making sure they were really alone. Then she walked to a wall panel and touched it with one of her hands. The lights in the room became dimmer and softer. "5 years ago," she said, turning back to Marcus. "On the planet Kepler 442b. Do you remember that place?" Marcus felt his heart skip a beat. Kepler 442b was a small research planet on the edge of human space. He'd been stationed there as part of a military science team. It had been a quiet assignment. Nothing important had happened there, or so he had thought. "Yes, I remember," Marcus said slowly. "But there were no Zephyrians there. That was before the war started." "There was one Zephyrian there," the queen said. "A young scout who crashed her ship while exploring your outer territories." Marcus suddenly remembered something. 5 years ago, he had been doing patrol duty around the research station. He had found the wreckage of a strange ship in a valley about 10 kilometers from the base. Inside the ship, he had found something that looked like an injured animal, but it had not been animal. "You," Marcus said, and his voice was just a whisper. The queen nodded. "My name is Zayara. I was 23 years old then. I was on my first solo mission to explore unknown space. I was supposed to map star systems and look for resources." Marcus remembered now. He had found the creature badly hurt and trapped in the wreckage. It had been making sounds that seemed like pain. Without thinking, he had pulled it free from the twisted metal. He had carried it to an old research shelter that nobody used anymore. "You were dying," Marcus said. "You had broken bones and internal bleeding. I thought you were some kind of new species we had not discovered yet." "I was dying," Zayara agreed. "My ship's emergency beacon had been destroyed in the crash. Nobody knew where I was. If you had not found me, I would have died in that wreckage." Marcus had spent 3 weeks nursing the strange creature back to health. He had given it food and water. He had bandaged its wounds. He had even tried to communicate with it, though he did not expect it to understand, but it had understood. "You learned to speak English very quickly," Marcus said. Remembering, My people are good at learning languages, Ziara said. And you were very patient with me. You taught me words by pointing at things. You taught me about human culture by telling me stories. Those had been strange weeks. Marcus had been alone at the research station. The other scientists had gone back to Earth for a conference. He had been left to watch the equipment and wait for their return. Finding the injured creature had given him something to do, but it had become more than that. You told me about your family, Ziara continued. About your sister, who was a teacher. About your parents who had died in an accident. You told me about your dreams of becoming a diplomat and helping people solve problems without fighting. Marcus remembered those long conversations. The creature had been a good listener. It had asked questions about human emotions and human society. At the time, Marcus had thought it was just a very intelligent animal trying to understand the world around it. And you told me about your people too, Marcus said. But you said you came from a place far away. You never said you were a scout for an alien empire. Ziara looked down at the floor. I could not tell you the truth. I was afraid you would turn me over to your military. I was afraid they would torture me for information about my people. But I would never have done that, Marcus said. I know that now, Ziara said, looking up at him. But I did not know it then. My people had taught me that all other species were dangerous, that they would kill or enslave us if they found us. You were the first alien I had ever met. Marcus remembered the end of those 3 weeks. The creature's wounds had healed. It had become strong again. One day, Marcus had returned to the shelter to find it trying to repair some kind of communication device from its ship. You fixed your emergency beacon, Marcus said. Yes, and when I activated it, it sent a signal to my people. They came to rescue me. Marcus remembered that day clearly. A ship had appeared in the sky above the research station. It had been unlike anything in the human fleet. It had hovered silently for a few minutes, then landed near the shelter. You came back to say goodbye, Marcus said. I wanted to thank you, Ziara said. And I wanted to tell you something important. But I could not find the right words in your language. Marcus remembered standing with the creature outside the shelter. It had looked at him with those large, intelligent eyes. It had made some sounds that seemed important, but Marcus had not understood them. Then other creatures had come from the strange ship. They had been bigger and looked more dangerous than his injured friend. They had surrounded the creature and led it away. That was the last time I saw you, Marcus said. Yes, my rescue party took me back to our ship. I tried to tell them about you, about how you had saved me. But they did not believe me. They said I was confused from my injuries. They said no alien would help a Zephyrian without wanting something in return. Ziara walked to a large window that looked out into space. Marcus could see stars and the distant glow of a nebula. When we returned to our home worlds, I told my story to the Council of Matriarchs. I told them that humans were not dangerous, that you had shown me kindness without asking for anything, that your people might be potential allies instead of enemies. What did they say? They said I was young and naive. They said that any species advanced enough for space travel was a threat to us. They decided to mark human space as a danger zone. No Zephyrian ships were supposed to go there again. Marcus felt a cold feeling growing in his stomach. But something changed. Zara turned back to him. 1 year after my rescue, my grandmother died. She had been the previous queen. According to our laws, I was next in line to rule. You were a princess. I was the crown princess. But I had been reported dead when my ship crashed. My people held mourning ceremonies for me. They blamed humans for my death, even though they had no proof. Marcus understood now. The pieces were falling into place. When he returned alive, it should have been good news. It was, at first. But then my advisors asked questions about how I had survived. When I told them the truth about you saving me, They said it was impossible. They said humans must have captured me and brainwashed me. They said I had been turned into a spy for your people. Zara sat down on a bench near the window. She looked tired suddenly, despite her royal bearing. To prove my loyalty to my people, I had to agree to expand our military. I had to approve scouting missions into human space. I had to prepare for the possibility of war with your species. But you did not want war, Marcus said. No, but I was young and uncertain. My advisors were older and more experienced. They convinced me that the only way to keep my people safe was to strike first. They said that if humans had captured one Zephyrian, they would try to capture more. Marcus sat down across from her. So the war started because your people thought I had captured you. Yes, 3 years ago, our first battle fleet entered human space. We expected to find a small, weak species that we could defeat quickly. Instead, we found that humans were stronger and more stubborn than we had thought. Zara looked directly at Marcus. For 3 years, I have been fighting a war against the people who saved my life. For 3 years, I have been wondering if you were still alive somewhere. And now here you are, sitting in front of me. Marcus felt the weight of everything that had happened. Millions of people had died in this war. Entire planets had been destroyed. All because of a misunderstanding about one act of kindness 5 years ago. Your people do not know the truth, Marcus said. No, if they knew that I had been helped by humans, they would say I am compromised. They would remove me from power and elect a new queen, and the new queen would not be interested in peace. Marcus looked around the beautiful room. He thought about the enormous ships surrounding them. He thought about the fleets of both sides that were fighting and dying across the galaxy. But you are interested in peace. Zara smiled. It was a strange expression on her alien features, but Marcus could see the warmth behind it. Marcus, she said, you showed me something that no Zephyrian had ever shown me before. You showed me kindness to a stranger. You showed me that different species could help each other instead of fighting. I have spent 5 years trying to understand what that meant. And now? Now I think I understand. And I want to find a way to end this war. Marcus looked at Zara carefully. She was an alien queen with the power to destroy or save humanity. But right now, she looked like someone carrying a heavy burden. Tell me about your people, Marcus said. Help me understand how they think. Zara stood up and walked to another wall panel. She touched it, and images appeared in the air above them. The images showed Zephyrian cities, with tall buildings that looked like they had grown from the ground instead of being built. We are an old species, Zara said. We have existed for over 50,000 years. We have built a great empire that spans many star systems. The images changed to show Zephyrian ships flying between planets. The ships were as beautiful and organic-looking as the one they were on now. We are efficient, Zara continued. Every Zephyrian has a purpose from the day they are born. Workers build and maintain our cities. Soldiers protect us from enemies. Scientists discover new knowledge. Rulers make decisions, and everyone accepts their role? Marcus asked. Yes, it is the way things have always been. A worker would never dream of becoming a scientist. A soldier would never question an order from a ruler. Each caste is what they are designed to do. Marcus watched the images. He saw Zephyrian workers building machines with perfect coordination. He saw soldiers training in precise formations. Everything was organized and purposeful. What about families? Marcus asked. Zara looked confused by the question. Families? Parents, children, brothers and sisters. People who care about each other. We reproduce when the population needs new members, Zara said slowly. Eggs are laid in community centers and cared for by designated caretakers. When the young ones are old enough, they are tested to determine their caste and trained accordingly. Marcus felt a chill. So you do not know your parents? I know who provided my genetic material, if that is what you mean. But they were simply doing their duty to create new rulers. They were not involved in my upbringing. The images changed again. Marcus saw young Zephyrians being sorted into groups based on their size and abilities. It looked efficient, but it also looked cold. Who raised you then? I was raised by the previous queens and their advisors. I learned history, mathematics, strategy, and diplomacy. I was trained to make decisions for the good of all Zephyrians. Marcus tried to imagine growing up without parents, without family love, without anyone who cared about you as an individual person. Did anyone ever show you kindness just because they wanted to? Marcus asked. Ziara thought about this for a long moment. I do not understand the question. Did anyone ever help you when you were hurt, even if it was not their job to help you? Did anyone ever give you something nice just because they wanted you to be happy? No, Ziara said. Why would they? Everyone has their duties. Helping someone is only done if it serves a purpose. Marcus began to understand something important. So when I helped you after your crash, it was completely outside anything you had ever experienced. Yes, at first I thought you wanted information from me, or that you planned to use me as a slave. Those would have been logical reasons to keep me alive. The images in the air changed to show Marcus's memory of the research station. It looked small and primitive compared to the Zephyrian cities they had been seeing. But you never asked me for information about my people, Ziara continued. You never tried to use me for work. You just helped me. And when I was better, you let me go. That seemed like the right thing to do, Marcus said. But why? Ziara asked, and Marcus could hear real confusion in her voice. I was nothing to you. I was not part of your family or your caste. Helping me gave you no advantage. So why did you do it? Marcus thought about how to explain something that had always seemed natural to him. Because you were hurt and needed help, he said. Because you were intelligent and interesting to talk to. Because. Marcus paused, trying to find the right words. Because I could see that you were a person like me. Different on the outside, but with thoughts and feelings on the inside. Ziara stared at him. You saw me as a person. Yes, even though I was an alien. Yes, even though helping me could have gotten you in trouble with your superiors. Yes, Ziara sat down again. She was quiet for several minutes, just thinking. For 5 years, I have been trying to understand this, she finally said. My advisors said you helped me because you were weak and emotional. They said humans must be inferior because they waste resources on creatures that are not part of their group. What do you think now? I think my advisors were wrong. I think what you did requires something that we do not have. What do you mean? Ziara gestured to the images still floating in the air. Look at our cities, our ships, our technology. We are more advanced than humans in many ways. But we have never created anything like what you showed me. I am not sure I understand. You showed me empathy, Marcus. The ability to care about someone who is not connected to you. The ability to help someone even when it costs you something and gives you nothing in return. Marcus nodded slowly. Humans call it compassion. We have no word for it in our language, Ziara said. The closest thing we have is duty, but that is not the same. Duty is helping someone because you are supposed to. What you did was different. The images changed to show scenes from the war. Human and Zephyrian ships fighting in space. Destroyed planets. Refugee camps. When the war started, I studied human behavior carefully, Ziara said. I wanted to understand my enemy, and I found something very strange. What did you find? Human soldiers who risked their lives to save wounded comrades, even when the logical choice was to retreat. Human civilians who shared food with strangers during sieges, even when they did not have enough for themselves. Human commanders who refused to use certain weapons because they would hurt innocent people, even when those weapons could have won battles. Marcus watched the images of human kindness during wartime. He had seen many of these things himself during his years as a soldier. Your people kept doing things that made no logical sense, Ziara continued. Things that were inefficient. Things that put you at a disadvantage. But you kept doing them anyway, because they were the right things to do. Yes, and slowly I began to realize that this was not weakness. This was something we had never developed. Something that made you different from every other species we had encountered. Ziara stood up and waved her hand. The images disappeared. For 50,000 years, we have been the most successful species in our part of the galaxy. We have conquered or absorbed dozens of other races. We have always won because we are more efficient, more organized, more logical than anyone else. But we have never met a species like yours before. A species that can see enemies as people who deserve compassion. A species that can choose kindness even when it is not practical. Marcus thought about this. You think that makes us dangerous? I think it makes you powerful in a way that we never expected. When I was injured in that crashed ship, I was nobody important to you. I was just a strange creature that needed help. But you helped me anyway. And that one act of kindness has changed everything. How? Zyra looked directly into his eyes. Because it changed me, Marcus. For 5 years, I have been trying to understand what happened in that shelter. And now I know. You showed me that there is another way to live. A way where people help each other not because they have to, but because they choose to. And that is what you want for your people? I want to end this war. But more than that, I want my people to learn what you taught me. I want them to understand that strength does not always come from conquest and efficiency. Sometimes it comes from choosing to be kind to strangers. Marcus felt a strange mix of hope and fear. The hope came from knowing that the Queen wanted peace. The fear came from knowing how difficult it would be to convince 2 entire species to trust each other after 3 years of war. How do we make that happen? Marcus asked. Zyra smiled again. This time, it looked more natural on her alien features. I have been thinking about that for a long time, she said. And I think I have an idea. Zara walked back to the center of the room and gestured for Marcus to follow her. She touched a panel on the floor, and a section of it rose up to form 2 chairs facing each other. Sit with me, Marcus, she said. We need to talk about the future. Marcus sat down across from her. The chairs were designed for Zephyrian bodies, but they adjusted automatically to fit his human form. What is your idea? Marcus asked. Zira was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. I can end this war with a single command. My people will obey me without question. But that would only stop the fighting. It would not create real peace. What do you mean? Real peace requires trust. And trust cannot be commanded. It must be built slowly, through understanding and cooperation. Marcus nodded. But how do we build trust between our peoples when they have been killing each other for 3 years? We start with the truth, Ziara said. But not all of it at once. If I tell my people that I was helped by a human, they will think I have been compromised. If you tell your people that the war started because of a misunderstanding, they will think you have been fooled by alien propaganda. So what do we tell them? Ziara leaned forward. We tell them that we have found common ground. We tell them that both of our species want the same thing. Security for our people and freedom to live our lives without fear. That is true, Marcus said. But how do we prove it to them? By working together. I will propose a joint mission. Something that benefits both humans and Zephyrians. Something that shows we can cooperate instead of fight. Marcus thought about this. What kind of mission? Zara gestured, and new images appeared in the air. These showed a star system with several planets, but something was wrong. The star in the center was flickering and unstable. 6 months ago, our scientists detected a star that is about to collapse into a black hole. When it does, it will destroy everything in that system, including 2 inhabited planets. Marcus studied the images. How many people live there? The first planet has 3 million Zephyrians. The second planet has 1 million humans. It is a colony world on the edge of your space. Marcus felt his stomach drop. 1 million humans? Yes, your people probably do not even know the danger yet. Your scientists have not detected the star's instability because it is too far away and your instruments are not as advanced as ours. How long before the star collapses? 4 months. Maybe 5. It is difficult to predict exactly. Marcus stared at the images. 1 million human lives. 3 million Zephyrian lives. All doomed unless someone helped them. Even if we work together, can we evacuate that many people in time? Marcus asked. Alone, neither of our species could do it. You do not have enough ships. We do not have enough time to build new ships. But together, Ziara changed the images to show fleet compositions and evacuation schedules. Together, we might be able to save everyone, she finished. Marcus understood immediately. It is perfect. A joint mission that saves lives from both species. Something that proves we can work together for good instead of fighting each other. Yes, but it will require complete cooperation. Human ships and Zephyrian ships working side by side. Human scientists and Zephyrian scientists sharing information. Human commanders and Zephyrian commanders trusting each other with the lives of their people. It will not be easy, Marcus said. There is a lot of hatred on both sides. I know, but I think it is possible, especially if the right person is leading the human side of the mission. Marcus looked at her suspiciously. What do you mean? Ziara smiled. I mean you, Marcus. I want you to be the human coordinator for this mission. I want you to work directly with me to plan and execute the evacuations. Me? But I'm just a diplomat. I do not know anything about evacuation procedures or fleet management. You know the most important thing, Ziara said. You know how to see people as individuals worth saving, regardless of what species they are. And you know how to inspire others to do the same. Marcus felt overwhelmed. But what about our governments? What about the military commanders who have been fighting this war? They will never agree to work together. They will if their queen and their best diplomat recommend it, Ziara said. They will if we present it as the only way to save 4 million innocent lives. Ziara stood up and walked to the window again. But there is one more thing, Marcus. One condition that I must insist on. What condition? If we do this mission together, if we save those people and prove that our species can cooperate, I want you to stay as permanent ambassador between our peoples. Marcus felt his heart skip a beat. Stay? Here? Not here on this ship, but in Zephyrian space. Working with me to build a lasting peace between our peoples. Learning about our culture and teaching us about yours. Marcus thought about what that would mean. Leaving Earth permanently. Leaving behind his life, his career, everything familiar. Living among aliens for the rest of his life. Why is that so important to you? Marcus asked. Ziara turned back to him. When she spoke, her voice was softer than before. Because 5 years ago, you showed me something I had never seen before. You showed me that it was possible to care about someone different from yourself. You showed me that kindness could exist between species. She paused, and Marcus could see emotion in her large, alien eyes. For 3 years, I have been fighting a war that I never wanted. For 3 years, I have been wondering if I would ever see you again. And now you are here, and I realized something. What? I realized that what happened between us 5 years ago was not just an accident. It was not just one human helping one Zephyrian. It was the beginning of something larger. The first step toward real understanding between our peoples. Ziara sat down across from Marcus again. If you stay, if you work with me, we can build something that has never existed before. A partnership between species based on mutual respect and compassion. But if you leave after this mission, if we go back to our separate worlds, then we will have saved 4 million lives, but nothing else will change. Marcus thought about everything that had brought him to this moment. The crashed ship he had found 5 years ago. The injured creature he had helped without knowing what it was. The war that had started because of a misunderstanding. The peace that was now possible because of one act of kindness. What about my own people? Marcus asked. What about Earth? You will be representing Earth, Zara said. You will be the bridge between our worlds. The voice that helps both sides understand each other. Is that not what you always wanted to do? Marcus remembered his conversation with General Martinez just a few days ago. He had been chosen for this mission because he was good at making deals and staying calm in difficult situations. But now he understood that there was more to it than that. He had been chosen because 5 years ago, he had done something that seemed small at the time, but had changed the course of history. He had shown kindness to a stranger. And now that stranger was offering him the chance to help create a better future for both their species. I will need to talk to my government, Marcus said. Of course. But Marcus, I need you to know something. This mission, this peace, it can only work if both of our species learn to see each other the way you saw me in that shelter 5 years ago. Not as aliens or enemies, but as people worth caring about. Marcus stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the stars that had watched over both human and Zephyrian worlds for millions of years. Those stars had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. They had seen wars and peace, hatred and love, fear and hope. If we do this, Marcus said, if we save those people and build this partnership, what do you think will happen? Ziara joined him at the window. I think we will prove that the universe is big enough for both of our peoples. I think we will show that different species can choose cooperation over conquest. And I think we will create something new. Something that neither humans nor Zephyrians could create alone. Marcus looked at Ziara. 5 years ago, he had seen an injured creature and decided to help it. He had not known that this decision would lead to a war. He had not known that it would lead to an opportunity for peace. He had simply done what felt right at the time. Now he had another decision to make. Another chance to do what felt right. I accept, Marcus said. I will coordinate the joint evacuation mission. And if it succeeds, I will stay as permanent ambassador. Ziara's smile was radiant. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you for saving my life 5 years ago. And thank you for saving our people's future today. She activated a communication panel and began speaking in the Zephyrian language. Marcus could not understand the words, but he could hear the authority in her voice. She was giving orders to end a war. On the other side of the galaxy, similar messages were being sent to human commanders. The war that had started with a misunderstanding was ending with understanding. Marcus thought about the evacuation mission ahead. It would be difficult and dangerous. Some people on both sides would resist working together. There would be mistakes and arguments and moments when failure seemed certain. But Marcus also thought about the 4 million people who would live because humans and Zephyrians chose to work together instead of fighting each other. He thought about the children of both species who would grow up in a universe where cooperation was possible. And he thought about a young woman who had crashed